Right, hello everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where in the world you are from. I am absolutely over the moon. I'm gassed. I've got my snacks. I'm ready. I'm joined by three incredible people in the world of e-commerce and SEO. So to my left, I have Christopher, who's an absolute legend. He's got an incredible microphone as well, brilliant shirt. We had a chat just before actually we went online. And Chris, just to broadly introduce yourself, marketer and technologist, VP brand and product marketing at Duda, and prior to that, it was at GoDaddy. Huh? Impressive. I mean, the talent in here is unreal. So it's really really good. We have, of course, Kristina, who I've worked with. We've been on things before. We've met in person. It's great. Kristina is great. Really really intelligent in the world of e-commerce SEO, and I think we're both obsessed in that particular field. So Kristina does her own thing, owner of an agency, number of books out, courses out, like honestly, really, really smart. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Kristina comes up with in this conversation. And then last but of course not least, we have Victor, who is basically the wizard in the world of site search over from DoFinder. So you're in for a treat, man. We should be charging for this stuff. This should not be free.
Absolutely not. Wait, so I thought you were on that, Luke.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I'll who am I? My name is Luke Carthy, and I am an e-commerce consultant. And but it's not about me. It's not about me. I want to pick your brains, guys. So we're going to give people a couple more minutes to start flowing in. Lots of people saying hello. We've got Scott from Atlanta. We've got someone from Mongolia. Awesome. Norway, Europe. We're everywhere. We're crossing all borders. Apparently we're at the EU, but not tonight. We're everywhere. I'm from the UK. Introduce yourself, guys. Whereabouts in the world are you from? And then we'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm in Silicon Valley, where Duda is based, and then we've got a number of offices all across the globe in Tel Aviv, Florianopolis, Brazil, just outside of Denver, in Louisville, Colorado. So we are coming in globally.
Awesome, fantastic. And Kristina, how about yourself? Whereabouts are you based?
I'm based in Toronto, Canada, in downtown Toronto mostly. And today is Christmas for me, so Merry Christmas to me and everyone who celebrates Christmas today. It's not about e-commerce, awesome. But it's always great to celebrate something every day, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Gotta make it happen. How about yourself, Victor? Whereabouts in the world are you from?
I'm now living in Madrid. I was raised in Brighton, the UK, and I've been living here for the last 12 years already. So yeah, I love Madrid. DoFinder is based here, and it's a lovely place to live in.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we'll leave it another couple of seconds just to get people in, everyone to get their seats and everything else. But just to kind of set the scene for what we're going to be talking about in this hour, ultimately, is of course practical tips for e-commerce SEO. So things you can take away, you can put into action. You can go and talk to your bosses, your clients, whoever it is that you need to talk to. We know, of course, unless you've been living under a rock, e-commerce is exploded yet again. So this is absolutely a big deal. But yeah, I think, where are we? 4 minutes in. I think we'll jump in and get the party started. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to yourself. You've got some cool stuff to show us, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you again for the invitation, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your day today. I'm going to just hop over, share a couple of slides here, and get us going. So again, really trying to focus on tactical, practical, actionable things for e-commerce SEO. Again, as Luke mentioned, my name is Chris Carfi. I'm VP of Brand and Product Marketing here at Duda. I've been with Duda for about a year. I did see in the intros, as people were jumping in, there are a number of folks who are familiar with Duda. For folks who haven't been having the chance to work with us yet, we are a professional website builder and really focus on agencies, SaaS platforms, and give folks the ability to take the platform and really make it their own. So you can build sites very, very quickly for your clients. Everything that we do is white labeled, so it's your brand, it's your relationship. We're not going to do a thing like, oh, I don't know, surprise you and say, hey, we're launching a agency service to build websites for clients. We are here to support all of you. Really focused on technology that works for everybody. So powerful editor. Also, a lot of the things that happen before and after the site build. So before the site build, making sure that you can collect assets, visuals and the like from your clients through the platform as you're actually in the development process, being able to collaborate with those clients, get feedback actually right in the platform, go back and forth, get approvals and such. And over the last year, we've really focused on making sure that we're doing things for clients. And over the last year, we've been ranked number one, and we actually just came out in G2's ranking as number one for the most likely website builder to be recommended by our customers. So we're super happy about that. Talk through a number of these things, but if you want to learn more about us, take a look on G2 or other places, and you can see what actual clients are saying about us. So over the next 15, 20 minutes or so, really want to talk through some of the things that we've learned in working with folks over the last few years. Number one, how do you know if this stuff is working? So we're going to start with the end in mind, and then get into some of the other details around descriptions and photos and structured data and the like, and then some of the new things that Google is doing as well that you might be able to tap into. So when we really think about e-commerce and SEO for e-commerce, again, let's start with the why. Why are we doing this? We need to figure out and understand how we're going to measure success. So the first is really think about tracking the entire funnel from the search to the page that the customer or prospective customer lands on, and then to the purchase itself. So really need to be thinking about that end-to-end funnel. Everything needs to be an experiment. So we've got an incredible panel of colleagues on the call here. We're all been doing this for a while, and the best laid plans always absolutely get blown sideways when they interact with the rest of the world. So you need to track everything. You need to learn. You need to improve. You need to iterate. One of the other things to really think about is tracking those funnels of what you're doing per channel. So obviously a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is Google centric, but don't forget Amazon actually gets probably over half of the search traffic when somebody is searching for a product. So you need to be thinking about that as well. And although it's a little bit more in the paid side of things, typically on the social side, you need to be thinking about how you're tracking your funnels from Facebook and Twitter and other platforms like Instagram as well. When we get into this and actually starting to get into some of the details, though, let's think about what are the things that are bringing in traffic to the site. So when we're talking about keyword tracking, what queries are coming in? And you need to really have this very, very tactical, very, very granular understanding. Are the things that are bringing traffic into the site, are they based on the name of the business? So if you've got a really strong brand, but people don't necessarily know what you're selling yet, you may see a lot of the traffic that way. And you should be looking at all of this stuff in your back-end website reports. Are folks looking for a specific product? So being able to go in and actually looking at a particular product by SKU, by model number, by name, is that the thing that's bringing traffic into the site? And if so, what's the competition out there around that? Or is it just general product? I'm looking for a coffee table, a chair, a t-shirt. Understanding at that level of granularity will help you get a better concept of where your awareness is in the market, and then where people are starting to actually do their search online and how well you're showing up in there. Need to really understand also what are the products that are going to be bringing in the most traffic, and what's the relative keyword volume from each of those. So you might have really great position, but if there aren't a lot of folks out there who are searching on that particular product and in the terms that you're ranking for. You might need to widen that out and actually generalize what you're optimizing that page for a little bit in order to get more folks there. So really understanding, do you have particular products that are going to show up widely in search, or are they super, super niche? And so understanding which way things are going there. Absolutely. Again, if we're thinking with the end in mind, check your click-through rate on all of the blue links that are showing up in Google. If you're seeing that your click-through rate is very low, then there are some on-page things that you could and should be doing. You need to be working and testing your titles and descriptions, those things that are actually showing up in search. If you're ranking, but your click-through rate is low, those are the types of very tactical things that you can do. Or, and we'll get into this more, really start to think about structured data. This is something that's been bubbling up the last couple of years with Google, and in the last year and few months in particular, especially as we've gotten into this big shopping season, that has really been one of the things that has started to ramp up on the e-commerce side and on the product side. And then also, as per always, since we've seen since Mobilegeddon, understand, are most people searching for these various terms, and which flavor of them are being searched on mobile, which ones are being searched on desktop, and the like. So kind of just start with, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to measure? Get your funnels set up and make sure you're tracking things at each stage of that. That'll help point out where the biggest opportunity areas are. And then from there, you can start to optimize. First and foremost, before we get into the details around structured data and things like that, eCommerce SEO is a subset of general site SEO. So you have to get the basics right first. So all the basic SEO 101 types of things, all of that's got to be in place. The site absolutely has to be performant. Images need to be optimized, all of those types of things. And whether you're doing it yourself, or if you're working with a platform like Duda that's doing a lot of that work for you, those are the types of things that you absolutely just need to get nailed out of the gate. For each product that you're going to have, you're probably going to have a product page. And for each of those products, really dive in and understand what are the product keywords that you need to be optimizing for by product, by page. Again, as mentioned earlier, need to be thinking about the volume of keywords and how tough are the competitors in those areas. If there are some low-hanging fruit things where there's a fair amount of volume, competition is low, absolutely. Let's start with those and try and get some conversions for yourself or for your clients using those products, because those are going to be the low-hanging fruit that you can go after. Obviously, tools like Semrush, all the different Google ads and related tools, and even Google Trends are things that you can use by product to start optimizing the types of things that you're looking for. Those products on your site are going to be organized probably into category pages. So again, you might have your, ringer t-shirt in blue that you're optimizing for, but then you're going to have an entire category pages around t-shirts as well. So those category pages need to be optimized. You need to describe what is that category about. Give the context, what's different about your category of products that you're trying to promote on that category page, and then obviously be able to dive into the individual products as well. Whereas the product page, you're trying to get super focused. Category page, maybe you're going to focus on 2 or 3 keywords for that page. And those product pages, again, need to be really, really, really dialed in. You need to focus on the copywriting. You need to focus on the descriptions, make sure that they're valuable, thinking about things like the product slug in the URL, try and keep the overall linking hierarchy so the crawlers can understand what the site is about and how to find the next thing. And again, really, really, really granular, really focused. You probably want to be at 1, maybe 2 keywords focus per product. As you're diving into each of those pages, there are, again, these are sort of the basics, but they've got to be right if you want to have a hope of any of these product pages ranking. So you want to go in, you want to keep your item names permanent in the URL. So you don't want to be tweaking things. You want to have the right level of granularity. So you're not always changing the URL every time you update a product. You don't want to do that because you're going to confuse the crawlers quite a bit. Do not take a product down when it's out of stock, because if Google happens to crawl it and you've taken it down in that instant of time, then again, crawler's going to get confused. Let's not do that. Just leave it up there and make sure that the process is set up that you can mark things as they are out of stock. Imagery is so important. There are tons of tutorials if you're out there doing it yourself or doing it on behalf of your clients, that with a little bit of setup, a little bit of lighting, you can do great photography with cell phone cams now. The pixel resolution is high enough that you can do it if you invest a little bit of time, but the product photography is absolutely something that needs to be nailed on that. Also, you don't want to make the file sizes obviously too big, because you're going to slow down the page, et cetera, on that side. Again, schema is super, super, super important, and product schema is really something that Google is putting a lot of focus on right now. There are a lot of additional resources above and beyond this conversation we're having now that can help you dig into the details of what it takes to really nail all the different things around description and pricing and availability and shipping and all of those things that can show up in schema, which can give you snippets and the richer types of results in the SERP. And we're going to look at sort of the different things on product pages as well. So again, in the rebroadcast, you can dig in on this, really just trying to give kind of the concept, examples of product pages that are doing things well. You've got a rich description up at the top and below the imagery that is going to tell what's going on. You've got very clear, well-lit imagery that shows both sort of the macro view as well as some snippets and detailed views. You've got the product, you've got the price, you've got availability, you've got sizing, you've got all the different types of things that you need from there. And you've really got the whole thing there so that Google has a lot of good stuff that it can, jump on and pull out of here. Similarly, when customers get here, they're going to be able to see all of the things and all of the questions that they might have. They can be answered right away. Don't do this. Don't just throw up, lame image of the product, name of the product, price, and that's it. So you really need to dig in, and on each of those product pages need to go a lot more, a lot deeper. So this is the stuff that is really kind of the next level you're going to need to dig in on and really start to think about the structured data for Google. Product schema is the key to what you're doing here. There are many, 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 many different product schema properties that are available. Some of the key ones that you absolutely need to look at are product name, brand, description, the image, and you need to actually specify that in the product schema on the page. If you are able to pull in product schema for ratings, do that as well. Availability. And Google actually has a thing now called the Rich Results Tester that you may or may not be aware of. You can click through on that, and any of the pages that you have out there, you can jump on those, click through on that, aim the crawler at there, and it'll see what it can see on all of those different pages. And so this is really, if this conversation again is sort of the 101 on this, this would be, the first set of things you want to check out in the 201 and dig into all of these different product schema aspects, because this is going to be the absolute key to making sure that A, your stuff gets ranked, B, it gets ranked well, and C, you have a reasonable chance of starting to get some of these rich snippets in the SERP, which is going to help a lot in getting visibility for these pages for yourself or for your clients. Again, you can go down to developers.google.com and the rest of that URL on the bottom there. This image kind of points to some of the things that can show up if you are doing schema well and Google can really crack the code on it. These are the types of things that you want to be looking at. Good example, there's a great company out there called Outlaw Soaps, actually known the founders for many, many, many years. They flippin' own the SERP around their products. So you might not know them, you might know them, doesn't matter. If you go in and you go into an incognito and type in something like campfire soap, either in the main tag or the main tab or in the shopping tab, you're going to see them just a wall of their products. So first, they've got a product that is really, really unique. They have optimized everything around that to get people to their site. So they've nailed the imagery, they've nailed the photography, they've nailed the schema. They've done all of these different things, both at the product level as well as their overall site level. And whether you're looking in organic search, whether you're doing ads, whether you're looking on the shopping page, their stuff shows up in there. And so it's a good example out there to learn from and sort of do the deconstruction to see the types of things of somebody who really has cracked the code on that. And then Google is starting to give even more tools to see how well you're doing on all this stuff. So there's the Google Merchant Center, and now there is Search Console for e-commerce as well. And again, these are examples here. If you dig in and you start to search on either of these things, Google Merchant Center is where you can keep and try and make it easier for Google to crawl all of these product pages for you. They've got a bunch of different ways you can get all of this structured data into the crawlers. You can do things like have a Google Sheet, and if you're keeping it updated, you can actually aim that Google Sheet at the Merchant Center or vice versa. And every time your product description or availability or pricing is loaded, it has an opportunity to pull that stuff into their search results. You can also do things like tell Google to crawl the site regularly. You can go in and you can actually put things in by hand. There are a bunch of different tools available for getting all of that detailed product data into Google, and Merchant Center is sort of the conduit you would use to do that. The flip side is everybody's familiar with Google Search Console. There actually is a section in there now for products, and you can actually click through, on the product side of things and dig in and by product. It will tell you which ones are doing well, which ones aren't. Do you have any errors or warnings or the like? And so you've got a lot of tools available to you in order to start to see, okay, are you getting this stuff dialed in? And again, for yourself or for your clients, you can take a benchmark of when you've started working on this. This is a great place to do that. And then over time, you've got a good goal as to sort of the prioritized list of the new things that you might be working on and working toward. So that's really kind of the high level stuff. Wanted to again give the intro. These are some of the trends that we're seeing at Duda out there. We've got lots and lots of customers who are doing e-commerce with us, and so wanted to sort of set the stage for the rest of the panel conversation with that, and then open it up to conversation across the panel and with the folks on the call. Back to you.
Awesome. Chris, there's so many nuggets there, just takeaways and immediate things that people can run away and make happen. So thank you very much for presenting that and putting that together. So quickly, what I want to say before we jump into the panel is anyone that's listening, watching on YouTube, or actually I don't think YouTube is good, but if you're actually on the link, questions. We need questions. So get in. So many people on as well, which is great. So we've got people from all corners of the planet, which is brilliant. So okay, I think what I'd love to do now is try and break down some of what Chris has jumped into, which was a lot of good stuff. So Kristina, SEO, Victor, we're going to talk about site search in a little while for sure. But Chris made emphasis on getting the basics right. And of course, I think SEO is almost this channel which is seen, everyone wants to chase the new and shiny, but the new and shiny is just not effective unless you have the fundamentals in place. But I know you're passionate about faceted navigation and keywords and granular opportunities, which Chris already alluded to. But yeah, what are your thoughts and inputs on that side of things for e-commerce and SEO?
Yeah, first of all, Chris, thank you so much. I really think that it was really, really helpful for people. So as Luke said, ask questions, because now you have the best opportunity to do this. So Luke, it's it's like you just read the email, my my newsletter that I sent today, and it was exactly about fundamentals versus shiny objects. Because I feel that so many people are talking about AI, machine learning, like we need to use AI for our e-commerce website, which has only 3 products because it will increase sales. But people usually forget about fundamentals, and they might not even forget about them, they might ignore them because it seems too simple. And when things seem too simple, people don't believe that they work. But actually, if you just start with the things that Chris have already pointed out, if you start with the right title tags, if you start with all those optimization, structured data for your products and for categories, this will pay off. And in terms of categories, yeah, one of my main things and one of my favorite things is that breaking down, first of all, breaking down the categories into more granular subcategories. So, for example, instead of just, I don't know, collars, you'll have dog collars, cat collars, and then you can have blue dog collars, etc., etc. And the second thing is that I actually called it the top framework because it's how you can approach the existing categories in your online store. So you can break them down by target audience, by oh my god, I forgot about this. By occasions. So for example, if it's birthday, for example, birthday gifts, and for product characteristics like blue collars for dogs. For example, if you break this down, it will also help you get more long tail traffic to your website versus just having something very general.
I love that. That's incredible. So, yeah, I think it's definitely untapped opportunity. I think one of those things with faceted navigation is you can send it so far left that you end up ruining all of your hard work. But if you get it right, and you read and you study and you make sure that everything's friendly and optimized well, then yeah, the long tail opportunities are absolutely out there. And as we know in the world of e-commerce SEO, the longer the query, the more likely it is to convert, right?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't even, like, if you're ranking for just gifts, it doesn't matter that people will buy from you. But if you are ranking for Christmas gifts for her, the search intent is more commercial, like, or transactional. People are more likely to buy from you.
Exactly. Which is a perfect time to segue to yourself, Victor. So, conversion is what you do. It's what you live in, right? Site search is one of those things that I love to preach. I'm mad passionate about it. Anyone that knows me and kind of follows the stuff I put out, site search is something I should pretty much have on a t-shirt, to be honest. But it gets so little love in the world of SEO, right? But it equally is your own internal SEO opportunity.
That's absolutely right. Some people forget that we, as SEO specialists, live of data, and we need a lot of information. We look for it in different tools. We look for it inside the Google search results. And one of the main opportunities that we have to gather information from our users is what do they do? What do they search for inside of our e-commerce? And site search gives you that opportunity. You have an advanced site search that gives you those analytics that is going to give you the information you need, for example, to create the right categories. You're going to know what they're exactly looking for when they're looking for it, and you're going to be able to tweak your site to work for your audience in a very specific time and space. And not only that, but it's also going to highly impact how Google sees your site, because good UI and good UX is day by day more important for your site. So Google is now watching if people is pogo sticking and they're searching for a specific product, and they're going inside your website and they're just going back because, like you guys have said, you're not giving the users the information they need. Giving them a good search solution, and giving them a good search experience, a good user experience, is going to be vital for any e-commerce to do great inside SEO.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's absolutely spot on. And I think to kind of segue into keyword opportunities and granularity and even just conversion overall, your biggest opportunity of data is right in front of you. It's the search products you have. So to feed your SEO teams with keyword opportunities, to feed your customer services teams with queries and new products that people are searching for. Kristin has already said it, but attributes and facets like color, size, how are people searching? Because all of that influences your keyword structures, the products you should invest in. And I'll use a perfect example, and I promised I wasn't going to say coronavirus, but it's the best one I've got. Like it's like a year ago it didn't exist, right? Or should we say 18 months ago it wasn't a thing. So looking at site search and understanding new queries that are emerging in your particular sectors is brilliant, because if you're not paying attention to that, you will not paying attention to the organic opportunities. So it's huge. All right, so we've got questions rolling in. I asked for questions, and the listeners and watchers here absolutely did not disappoint. There are so many, so I think we'll jump into getting into some of these. So let me just find a pretty cool one that will resonate with a lot of people. So I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I've got Mesmer, it might be Murmur, depending on the languages and all sorts of things. As I say, we're all around the world, so apologies if I got that wrong. But Mama asks, how to put up front a product page that gets more traffic than other product pages? Hold on a second. I'm not even sure that even, I'm not sure if I can break that question down. How to front a product page that gets more traffic than other product pages? So, okay, I'm going to assume that what they're asking here is how do you basically improve SERPs of specific product pages over other product pages? So if you've got a product that's ranking really well, another product that's not ranking at all or ranking quite poorly, how do you help influence the poorly ranking products to improve better in organic? So yeah, I'll put that question out to yourself, Chris. What are your thoughts on that?
So probably a couple different ways to do it. Again, like any other sort of sculpting of how the results work across the page, there are some things that you can do on that. If there are ones that you're really trying to focus on, try and get more internal links to that page from across other parts of the site. Make sure that that's the one that you are promoting. Make sure that you're trying to do things offsite as well that are driving more traffic to that one to try and get more awareness of that. Obviously, again, some of the basic, some of the basic tactics of just making sure that the ones that you want to rank the best are optimized as much as you can as far as page size and schema and the like. So it's it's probably an analogous situation to trying to get one page on the site, whether or not it's a product page, ranking above other pages, and really understanding what your priority is there.
Yeah, I like that. That's good feedback. Victor, yourself, in terms of the areas that you look into. I mean, SEO of course is one channel, but there's also a different experience we need to look at when you get on the site. So how is it you could leverage ways and tactics to kind of get a low visibility, whether that's organic or on site, to really help improve that?
Yeah. So obviously, if I'm speaking from my own experience, if you can build that kind of links towards that page, it's going to really help you. But if you have an advanced, again, I know I'm talking about the same, but if you have an advanced search solution, you can probably make that page rank better inside your own SEO tool, and that is going to drive more traffic to that specific site. And in the medium to long term, it's going to influence, because you're going to have more traffic to that page. That is going to make that page more important. You're going to create more traffic to it.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So if you've got category pages, search result pages, how do you use your site search, use your merchandising tools to bring that product up I think an important point to mention as well is, of course, make sure it's in stock, because of course if it's not in stock, it's not going to rank. But Kristina, I'd love to get your thoughts and input on this. So, a product that's struggling, what is it you do to try and help add more visibility?
Yeah, the first thing that I would consider is this product really struggling? What I mean by that is if you compare traffic to some of your products versus traffic to other products, like it was written in the question, right? Maybe the products that get lots of traffic, they have more demand and more people are looking for them, and versus products that are visited by fewer people, they're not that important in general. People are not looking for them in general a lot, right? So this is the first thing. Maybe you don't even have a problem. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, secondly, I think that the tips that have already been given by you amazing guys, like honestly, these are very good. And one last thing is just, I don't know if you have any blogs, like for example, bestsellers, or if it's relevant for bestsellers, new or update, or our team peaks or something like that, plus upsells or related products, add this product there. But you need to decide if this product page is struggling in the first place, because maybe it's not.
That makes a lot of sense. I think lastly, to add on to that, I think if you have a pattern where you're consistently seeing reduced rankings on products that are on page 2 and onwards, then take a look at your pagination, because I see this so often. It's like a common mistake that pagination is broken from an SEO point of view. So check that out and make sure it's in your sitemaps. If it's not in your sitemap, it's going to struggle, especially if it's a new product. We could talk about that one question all day, because it's a super important thing, right? I want to go to a question from Jessie. It's a really, really good question, actually, which is, what do you recommend to focus on for large catalogs? So Jessie's where she works, or he works potentially. They're an industrial B2B company selling ductwork, piping, and tubing and stuff like that, I think. They've got over 40,000 SKUs. So what is your recommendations to manage large catalogs, a large amount of inventory, whether we're talking 40,000, 400,000, or even 400, to be honest, because that's still a relatively large inventory. And I think, Kristina, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so as if you were feeling that I wanted to answer this.
I know.
Okay, so you read my thoughts. I don't know. So one of the things that I notice here is, okay, you have a really huge catalog. The things that I've seen before in my experience is that sometimes this large catalog is not really does not really have the products that should have separate pages in the first place. Mm-hmm. I will give you an example. I saw situations when e-commerce websites have, for example, wire with green dots as a separate URL, as a separate product, and wire with orange dots. And actually, nobody's going to look for this kind of wire or this kind of wire separately. So what happens with this kind of industrial, and not only industrial products, is that you divide every single product characteristics and have a separate URL for this. And that's why you can end up with a huge catalog, and then you can struggle with getting everything crawled and indexed and in general discovered by Google, right? So this is the first thing to look at, whether you need all these product URLs, all these SKUs have separate pages. If not, then you can consolidate some of them when it makes sense. If this particular product with its characteristics has demand and has search volume, then obviously leave it as a separate page. But if it doesn't, you can combine separate characteristics, like for example, in this case, orange dots and green dots under the same umbrella, under the same URL. So this will definitely help you to minimize the amount of products that you have, and thus it will help Google to discover the URLs properly. And then internal linking, lots of internal linking. Pagination, as Luke said, and breadcrumbs, more specific categories again, because Google is going to discover these categories and then discover the products via them, and XML sitemaps. I'm not going to cover everything because I'm sure that Chris, Victor, and Luke have really great tips on this as well. So I'll give the mic to Luke, who decide who's going to get the mic.
So Kristina's up here for me. I don't know if she's. So I'm just going to grab that from you. All right, I'll bring it back. Okay. So I think there's a perfect situation to work on a hybrid here, and Victor's nodding away because I think he's on the same page as me. So if you're in a situation, this happens more so in B2B, which is a perfect example where you say, Kristina, about colors, dots, different specs, but it's ultimately the same raw product. So it could be like a sofa with 18 different materials, but it's the same sofa. I find a balance between, again, your site search and your categorization. So if you search for, let's say, I don't know, let's say you've got a sofa called, I'm trying to think of a descriptive word for a sofa. I don't know, clock sofa, because I'm literally looking at the clock on the wall at the minute. And that comes in like 18 different colors. If you search for that, it would be great to see all of those potential 18 variances on the search results. But when you go to the product page, you have a single product page with all the variable options where you can choose color, whether it's leather or fabric and that sort of stuff. So that can be a hybrid way to kind of be the best of both worlds. But Victor, have you got anything else you wanted to add to that in terms of how to handle?
Absolutely. First of all, I completely agree with Kristina. If you have a 2 meter long cable and a 3 meter long cable is the same cable, just put it in the same page and you will reduce your problems by a huge margin. And then you have two approaches and you have to apply them at the same time. First, how is your customer searching for your product? Sometimes for B2B e-commerce, they're searching directly for the serial number of the thing they're looking for. So make sure that is indexed, because sometimes they're not looking for 2 meter long cable. They're searching for ESP250, and you want that to be properly set up and indexed. And at the same time, you want to be able to support natural language, so that if they don't know the serial number and they're looking for blue 2 meter long cable under $10, that is going to be supported inside your website as well. So that is how I would approach that 40,000 products you have there.
I hear you. And Chris, I'd love to, if you got any thoughts on that too, let's hear them.
Yeah, I just wanted to riff on that on a couple of areas. So as Kristina was saying, sort of finding out what's sort of the minimum aggregate search volume you want for a particular product page, and sort of, if let's say, I'm just picking a number out of the air, anything below 800 searches per month is not, is too granular. So are there a way to combine different colors, number of spots, lengths and such up to sort of an aggregate page that whatever is your cutoff, and then use that faceted type of search within there to deal with that. The other, Victor, you triggered a really interesting thought when we start getting into product numbers, model numbers, part numbers, things like that. Yes, that needs to be out there and included in the description, need to be thinking about all of those types of things. Also, as we get into those more really, really detailed, granular types of things at that level, as parts change over time, and as also there are substitute products. So for example, with batteries in the US, you get those little watch batteries. Your thing might need a CR2032 battery, but if you know that the CR2032 and the CR2025 are actually interchangeable with just a small difference, putting in your description and putting in that product page, also will work for these other model numbers. You can start to pull in some search traffic on things that are actually not on the exact product, but on a product that you will work for as a substitute. And that's another tactic you can think about as well.
Yeah, I love that, because that's kind of like, equally, you could argue it's SEO, right? But if we think about in the strictest discipline of what SEO is, which is purely an acquisition channel, this is the SEO that isn't just about traffic growth, but it's about conversion and UX and retention and average order value and all of that stuff that brings it all together. So if you have an SEO resource and you have someone in your business that can manage UX and customer services, and it's that perfect integrated team where everyone is speaking the same language. Acquisitions bringing in their paid, organic, social, and then you've got people who are responsible for turning that traffic into increased order values. As you said, Chris, recommendations. Victor, you said with terms of how you merchandise the page and part numbers and serving that. And Kristina, it's just honestly what we should do. We should just basically start an agency. All right, this is what is going to happen. So we're going to create a new agency. Yeah. Or a band.
Why not both?
Let's do both. Let's make it happen. All right. So there's a question from John. Sticking with yourself, Chris. He asked a question about the presentation you did earlier. You mentioned product slug in the URL. And just could you give a little explanation as to what you mean with that?
Yeah, just in the, again, thinking about, sort of SEO basics, if you've got your set of keywords that you might want to choose to figure out the right way to include that in the URL itself as a weak ranking signal. Another thing to think about, so if there are particular aspects of the product name, those other types of traits that people might be searching on, just not only thinking about in the on-page types of things, but also thinking about the URL and the URL structure as well. What's the right level of granularity to include those types of keywords in the URL? And that's when I was using the phrase product slug. That's what I was referring to.
Awesome. Thanks for clearing that up, Chris. So there's a question that's coming from Roman. I'm hoping we can get a couple more questions in. There is literally loads. I asked for questions and everyone's just absolutely gone in, which is brilliant. But Roman's asked a question specifically about pagination. I know we brought that up earlier as a constant battle that many clients of mine, and I'm sure yourself with you guys as well, something you see all the time. But the question Roman asks is, there's still a dilemma about pagination pages and load more pagination pages. So I guess not laser loading, infinite scrolling and that kind of thing, dynamic JavaScript pagination. How do you optimize them to get more visibility for second and third pages? So I think it almost looks like there's a couple of questions there. One is about infinite scroll, and I guess the other one is about how to effectively make sure pagination is as watertight from an SEO point of view as possible. Now, if we can get another question in off the back of this, it'd be brilliant, but pagination is a whole mood, it's this whole thing. But yeah, Kristina, what have you got? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so actually, I believe in the developer documentation, Google has best practices for this kind of pagination, and it's actually basically the same ideas behind this as if you had just separate pages like page 2 or page 3. So basically when you load page 2 or page 3, even like if somebody needs to click more, load more, or if it happens as the person scrolls, the URL should still change to page 2. So when, for example, your customer is scrolling down and then they are on page 2, they should be able to copy this URL and then use it afterwards, or page 3 or page 4, whatever. And then those pages, for example, page 2, ideally should have a URL, like, for example, previous URL pointing to the first page, and the next URL pointing to the third page. So you basically create like a structure where paginated URLs, no matter how many of them, for example, let's take 10, each of them is linking to the next and to the previous URL, so that Google can discover all of them. And what's important, they are also linked with using web standards, which means they are linked via href links, not, for example, any on-click events, not JavaScript events. In this case, Google can discover those URLs and ultimately can discover the products that are hanging out on those URLs.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, pagination is Such a thing. I can't even think of a more PC word to say than that. So I'm just going to say it's a thing. All right, Chris, I'm gonna throw the mic to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on best practices and just things to get right when it comes to pagination.
Yeah, I think you guys have hit the key bits on that. Understand, just going through and again, trying to, when you're looking at your own site, can you find the stuff that's on page 3? Can you find the stuff that's on page 5? And if so, how is it being indexed? How is it being found? As Kristina was saying, making sure that the the code that's in the page itself is giving Google the tips it needs to get to the next pages, making sure that previous and next are set up. But again, we can go in and be super technical on it, and then sometimes just failing over to the can I find this thing on page 3? And if so, what does Google think is the way it's getting there? And just going in and doing that is helpful as well.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you, Chris. Victor, your inputs, man. What are your thoughts on the world of pagination?
I think everything I think.
Hold on a second, Victor. I'm struggling to hear you, my man. It's very.
Can you guys hear me now?
Muffled. There we go. Nice and clear.
Great. So I was saying that you guys have covered mostly everything I was thinking about. The other thing is that pagination is, at the end of the day, a very useful tool inside your website. So make sure you give users the opportunity to filter and order your product as they would like. And as for SEO, just make sure that you link to the previous and back pages and use standards. Basically, that's how it's going to work. If you create a very cumbersome solution, it's going to make things very hard for Google to index those pages.
Yeah. They're all valid points. Just to throw a little bit on the back of that, for me personally, and I'm sure in UX tests and so many things, infinite scroll, can you please just stop doing that? But no, not in e-commerce, it doesn't help. And the reason why, I'll give you a real proper reason, you can never access the footer. Like, you want to get to the footer on the category page, you can't do it. So just stop.
I know. Sometimes I go to About Us page, which doesn't have, and scroll to the footer. Yes.
Super annoying.
Yeah, and then you're on a mobile in like a train station and like, it's taking,
and you're like, and you're almost there. You're like, and then it moves out of the way.
Stop.
Yeah. So then you have to break out inspect element to try and get crazy with it. So don't do that. All right. There's 4 people in this particular room who've told you not to do it. I think lastly on that, this is definitely where personalization comes in, because the bigger question to think about is page 3 shouldn't really be an option for that customer. So even though that particular item might not sell as well as the items on pages 2 and 1, because I am a customer who purchases things on page 3, they should be on page 1 for me. So there should be very little reason for me to have to scroll beyond page 1/page 2, because personalization should mop up the best products for me and bring them to the top. And also just make sure you exclude your parameters. So your pages, number of products per page, please don't index those parameters. And things like that, right? There's just a number of best practices, but I think tackle pagination from a customer perspective first and reverse engineer it, rather than think about SEO first and then try and cram in a UX side of things. But that's normally the case for most things. Like if you're doing it for SEO's sake, you've probably done it wrong. All right, I think we've got time for one more juicy question. Let me just have a quick scroll through here and see what's going on. So many. Okay, I'm literally infinitely scrolling now through questions. I'm kind of eating my own words.
There are so many.
There are so many.
Thanks everyone for those questions.
Thank you, guys.
All right, do you know what? There's one here that speaks to my soul, which is out of stock. So Chris, you lit that fire already in your 20-minute slot when you went through it. But Itai, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. Itai mentioned, Chris, you mentioned not to put down a page of a product which is out of stock. What do you recommend to do instead? I know you touched on it already, but if you could emphasize on that a little bit for me, Chris, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah,
for the
so on the
listeners?
page, you should be able to note that it is currently out of stock. And so, note it on the page. That's something that, Google can pick up as well. The other things you can do, sort of the yes and on that is if you want to let people back order or be notified when it's back in stock, do that. Because this is somebody with the hugest intent at that point, and so you want to make sure that you don't lose them. Secondly, if you do have some sort of after noting that the current product is out of stock, if there are some sorts of substitutes, you can do that. The other thing that I've seen that works really well is in those cases where you do have a number of different colors and sizes and options for the product, it might only be some subset of those that is out of stock. So, the size 7 shoe might be the only one. And so, you list it there, and maybe there's some UX things you can do. You can, gray that particular size out, but folks know it's available and such. But don't take down the page. Do note that it is out of stock on the page, and don't leave customers in a dead end. Give them something next to do. Give them an option, or get back to them, or in some other way keep the conversation going, as opposed to just saying nope, sorry.
Yeah. Really good advice there. I think. Victor, sorry, you wanted to say something? You want to jump in?
No, I was going to say that if you know when they're going to be able to order that product, just let them know. Give them the information that they need. Some e-commerce already know when is that next order coming, so make sure that they can order in advance, or to let them know when that product is coming. That's about it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And I love what Chris has mentioned already about giving them an alternative route, right? Don't just leave it as a dead end. So whether that's via product recommendations, if it's as granular as black's out of stock but you still got navy blue, or if it's as top level as the whole thing is out of stock and you only do one option, then give them something similar. Maybe there's a close variant. If there's a camera, for example, the Canon M50, because I just bought one, it's on the top of my head. Maybe like the M50 Mark II's in stock now, and you can just recommend that one instead. But Kristina, I want to pick your brains on this one, because I think we're absolutely on the same page on this one. What are your top tips to handling out of stock, whether that's permanently, temporarily? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I would not just say again what you've already said. As you pointed out, we are completely on the same page about this. So yeah, I agree with everything that has been already mentioned, and these are really great tips.
All right, awesome. So I think it's kind of I think out of stock and email me when out of stock is massively under optimized. There's so many retailers that just don't do it, and the retailers that do have got to be making waves. I think it's even more important if you are selling your own branded products. Obviously, if you're a retailer selling something that 50, 60 other retailers do, it's not so impactful. But if for example, like T2, for example, who sell their own teas online, you can't really get them from anywhere else, especially right now where the high street's not an option. So having that email me when back in stock is brilliant. And then additionally, that's to sprinkle some more sauce on it, because why the hell not? Put recommendations in there as well. So even if maybe it's not going to be in stock for like another 2 weeks, email them in a week with, okay, the item's still not back in stock, don't worry, we'll let you know as soon as it is. However, in the meantime, we have this. And it could be, okay, you don't have Earl Grey in stock, but you might have decaf Earl Grey, or you might have a variant of Earl Grey, or something like that. And now want tea. So that's the thing. I think
there's a yes and. There's a yes and on that as well that you just triggered, Luke, which is if you've got good visibility into supply chain and inventory and fairly decent things on that, you can also, if you have high certainty that you're actually going to be shipping it and it is actually going to come in 2 weeks, you can take the order and just set the expectations that it's going to ship and be delivered at a point in the future. If you're normally going to be there in 2 days, but for this one, the shipping time is 2 or 3 weeks, customer might be okay with that. You've already got them there. At least give them the option.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got another minute or so left. I am going to kind of throw it out to the floor. Actually, I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to ask, can you guys, put you on the spot, can you guys give your top tip for the people that are watching, listening this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever they are? So, Victor, I'm going to start with yourself. What's your number one tip to take away from this?
I think that would be optimize your page for your users, get as much data as you can, gather your information, and optimize from that for you users, make your categories useful for them, and then optimize for Google. But first of all, for you users, that's going to be really important.
Solid advice. All right, Kristina, what you got?
Get your fundamentals right. If you think that they are already right, but you haven't checked them for a while, for a year, get someone else's opinion, get fresh look from someone else, but get the fundamentals right first. Don't try to chase all the shiny objects.
Love that. Chris, last but not least, of course, what's your final tip?
Yeah, know what you're trying to do. Go in, and the first question is, why am I even doing this? What is the business problem I'm trying to solve? How am I going to measure it? As Victor was saying, how do I optimize this over time? As Kristina was saying, do I have the foundation, the fundamentals set up? If those things are set and you know what you're trying to solve for, then you can start to work on it. But we're in an industry where there is no shortage of shiny objects and next new awesome thing. It's going to be the best, but you got to get the basics right first.
You have. And I think the tip from me is, it's quite a controversial one, to be honest, but CRO before SEO. And that's always been my thing. Focus on getting your customers through the checkout before you bring more customers to your checkout. Or why would you not do that? Why would you grow traffic and have a terrible checkout?
Leaky funnels are bad.
Leaky funnels are bad. There you go. Chris said it. I'm getting that on a t-shirt. All right. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, who are listening, tuned in, donated an hour of your time, whatever you're doing, thank you so much for joining us. We are proud to say the first Semrush webinar of 2021, and that also means we're going to do the best. Like, that's just how it is. I don't want any arguments from anyone. That's just how it is. Chris, Kristina, Victor, thank you so much for joining, for sharing your thoughts, your inputs. Yes, you can see us Twitter handles and stuff like that down there. My DMs are open. If anyone wants to blow them up and ask me any questions, I can try my best, but I'm only one person. And yeah, thanks again. I'll see you at the next webinar with Semrush. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
everybody.
much,
Thank
everyone.
you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for your time. Bye.